Welcome to this panel discussion on AI as a career choice in the region. It's a pleasure to see all of you here in Doha. I'm really impressed to see all these young researchers. In this panel, we are trying actually to convince you not to do AI as a career. I'm just kidding, but we'll try our best. So my name is Hamad Abdullah, and I'm a professor at College of Science and Engineering at HBKU. And we have the panel today, we have a mix between an academic experts and industry experts and also VCs. So are going to try to target the different aspects, how to develop your AI career. I'm pretty sure most of you are interested in this. And the panel will be, first we're going to look about, there will be three main parts which we are trying to explore in this panel. The first one is try to see what the industry needs and what kind of their needs in terms of AI skills that the industry wants. And then later we're going to see how from academic side, both like we have Dr. Khaled, Dr. Dena from the academic side, how we are going, what kind of skills do you need? Do you only need programming? Do you need to learn tools? Do you need more foundations? So all these questions we are trying to answer here and see the point of view from the academic and both industry side, and then see what's from the region, what we can do to retain the talent here in the region and to make sure that we keep you here working in the MENA region. So before, I think it's time to start. So first, I will try, we'll give the floor to the panelists to introduce themselves, then we are going to start the discussion. So Dr. Khaled.
Thank you, Hamad. Hi, everybody. It's great to be here today. My name is Khaled Harris. I'm a professor of computer science at Carnegie Mellon University and the senior associate dean for faculty there.
Hello, everyone. It's very nice to be here. It's an honor to be in such an important event. So this is Dena Al-Thani. I'm an associate professor at the College of Science and Engineering at Hamad Bin Khalifa University. I'm also a co-founder of a research center of excellence called ASense on sensing technologies on autism and behavior related to autism. I recently became the head of the ICT division as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. I'm Murtaza. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Keen AI. Before that, I was with my nice colleagues here at DeepMind. I was a tech lead and manager of a research team in California. I was an adjunct lecturer at Stanford. Been doing startups in Bay Area for a while. And very nice seeing all these faces here. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? Hello, everyone. Pleasure to be here. My name is Masoud Al-Rawahi. I am the co-founder and partner at Phase Ventures. Thank you. Clearly, I don't do this very often. I'm the co-founder and partner at Phase Ventures, the first private venture capital firm in my country. I'm also a founder of Phase Row. It's an AI consultancy firm with an AI lab, and our focus is making impactful solutions for enterprise clients.
Okay, so as I said, my name is Mohammed Abdullah. I'm a professor at College of Science and Engineering. I'm also the Associate Dean of Undergrad Studies. I'm very interested in AI and also in terms of developing career for our students. Okay, so first, before I forget, I forgot to thank Google DeepMind and QCRI for the invitation. Thank you very much. It was actually, it's a very nice event, and we are so happy to be here. So thank you very much, and thank you also for the whole organization. So thank you. Okay, so now as I said, we are going to talk about what's needed. Okay, I'm pretty sure all of you are interested in developing your AI career. And so the question now with the extremely evolving, this technology AI, 2-3 years ago, we never heard about generative AI, LLM, even though it was there in the research, in the academia, but all of a sudden we moved from deep learning techniques. Now you need to know generative AI, you need to know LLM. You never know what will happen next. For example, some work people have been for example, like an example in LLM, people were focusing on developing foundation models, and then all of a sudden these foundation models becomes, with DeepSeek, becomes open. So maybe should we focus on developing applications? Should we be focusing on developing foundations? So all these questions, or all these issues is running so fast. So in order to really to have a good AI career, so what do you need? Okay, what the industry needs now, and actually how to keep yourself always up to date to this kind of technology changes. If you learn something now, like for example, should we focus only developing tools? You become expert, maybe this tool next day will be useless. So all these questions, we're trying in this panel to address all of these. We need to see what the AI, what the industry needs now and after a few years from now, and also from the academic side. For example, we are like here at HBQ and CMU, we're trying to develop students to get ready for this AI this AI career. What should the undergraduate do? And for the graduate, also we have graduate programs. What you should learn from the graduate programs? These are the questions we are going to do today. So first, let me start with, I will try now to see what the industry needs to understand, what they need, and then we see what kind of, from the academic side, what they need, the skill that you need to develop. So my first question, actually, I will be trying to, maybe I will start with Mr. Masoud, because Mr. Masoud, actually, he's a VC, so he has all the money. So he control what you should do. So he's the most important one to start with. So, Mr. Masoud, so my question to you, okay, how would you describe the AI job market in the Middle East compared to the global AI hubs, and which industries are driving AI adoption and creating the most career opportunities?
Well, I would describe the ecosystem first and foremost, right? And I would describe it as nascent, right? So I recall when we first started our firm back in 2017, there was barely any startups. In fact, I was kind of ridiculed for considering entrepreneurship as a career, let alone tech entrepreneurship. And certainly we've come a long way, but I think there's still a much longer way to go right now. And what that means is that there's still a lot to be built. Also, there's still huge opportunities to start new companies. It's not a saturated market at all from a startup perspective. The other thing I would say, kind of as a feature, is that it's quite a young market. I think kind of the average age in MENA is under the age of 30, like 50% of the population under the age of 30. Which is a challenge as an employer to looking for seasoned technical founders, technical engineers, particularly in the AI space. But it's also a huge opportunity, I think, for people like yourselves. When we're looking to hire, we're kind of forced to look at young, high potential talent and developing them. And so I think that's a really interesting opportunity for yourselves. And I think another core feature of kind of the ecosystem here, I would say as well, it's highly centralized, which causes challenges, and maybe we'll talk about later about the features of the ecosystem here. But that creates huge opportunities, I think, to work very closely with the government entities, getting those feedback loops, and kind of growing this ecosystem quickly. And I think what is really interesting through these kind of big centralized efforts is that I think we're going to mature very, very quickly. And I think you guys are here kind of at the right time for that. Yeah.
So maybe any feedback or comments from the panelists on this?
He has the money, man.
So that's it. Let's leave. For example, maybe I will ask one question before I give it. So what kinds of skills you are looking for, when you hire? I mean, from the industry, what kind of jobs that you're looking for? And for these students, if they want to know to have multiple things in there, what kind of skill they need to have?
Broadly speaking, across the gambit. So we're talking about technical skills. I think there's a huge dearth. I was reading that the number of job vacancies are increasing much faster than we are able to fill them. So that's across the board. If we talk about it from a job title perspective, whether it be a data scientist, AI engineer, machine learning engineer. But I'll talk about it with my perspective from the startup world, entrepreneurship world. generally speaking, we're not looking for accolades. We're not particularly looking for skill sets. We're looking for capabilities, all right? And especially now, as this fast-moving world in AI, the job roles are sort of merging into each other. And really what we're looking for is more like a strong foundations. And then we're looking for attitude. So very rarely, or at least when we screen for opportunities, do we look for accolades. What we're looking for is, have the right attitude, you have a bias towards action, and have you proven that in the past, and can you adapt to the changes? Can you provably show us that, as you mentioned, as the world is moving from deep learning, now the in vogue thing is Gen AI and LLMs, is how well can you adapt to that, and can you show that to us? That's really what we're looking for.
I think Murtaza, Mr. Murtaza, yes.
Sorry. I wanted to add something, but Masood already said it, and that's really looking for capabilities rather than skills, right? Is this person that is capable to learn new skills? To be honest, I'm not even sure if I'm going to have my job next year or not, right? Because the whole earth underneath us is just shifting so drastically. So I think I just wanted to double that on that point.
Any comments?
No, wait for my part.
So let me ask you a question. And for instance, these learning capabilities, okay. And for example, these students, what you should do? I mean, what kind of foundation they are looking for? For example, are you looking for students that are excellent in programming? They're looking for students excellent in data analytics? So what kinds of skills they are looking for? Yes, any of you?
I think the answer to that question is at least my thinking is a little bit contradictory. From one perspective, I don't really care what the skill you have, as long as you have a very strong skill, which shows that you can do great things, right? I mean, if someone is great at swimming, right, they're healthy, right? They can probably practice and be a good runner as well. So from one perspective, since the skills are so fluid, I mean, when we think about it, we don't really care about the skill. From another perspective, there are some subsets that are important. As Masood said, I mean, human skill is still very, very important, because there's so much you can achieve as a single individual. If you can work with a team of 5 effectively, these 5 people will achieve much more than 5x the individuals. They can achieve 500x the individuals. So that ability to work effectively with others is very important. Another aspect that is very important, and I think you guys have an advantage compared to this side of this table, is that this open mindset and not being biased toward a specific way of doing things, right? Okay, I did design of system architecture this way, and that's the way I do it, right? Or we did in my previous company, we did develop software this way, and this is how we do it. Because the whole, I mean, it used to be that the earth will, the day and the duration of day is 24 hours, now it's 14 hours, right? So it's gonna be a different world. What you used to be, if you can distill knowledge, if you can distill experience and then apply it to the new world, that's a very good skill. If your experience means that that's the only way you can operate, then it's a hindrance for you.
That's very interesting. I agree with you. And that's actually my philosophy, even when I tell my students that the foundations and the skills are very important. So another question, maybe related to this region. So maybe for you, Murtaza. So what challenges do AI professionals face in the region, and how can they be addressed? So what are the main challenges, since you have some?
I start from the second part. The way it can be addressed is by you, right? So the main challenge that I think exists everywhere is the talent. It's all about people, to be honest. It's all about people, right? So, I mean, nowadays the world is so connected. Most things are so accessible. We were talking to some other, actually, government entities, and they were saying, oh, what kind of GPUs you need? And you can't access. Okay, I don't really need an H100, and the ones that I want, I can access. The thing that I need is people, right? And we need great talents. Great talents, I mean, one interesting thing is that humans are very elastic in a sense that I can pull this table, it won't increase. But if you stretch yourself, right, go beyond what you think you can do, just take one step further, right? Just believe in yourself, right? All the people who did great things, if you look at them, I mean, just read books. That's one great thing that probably we should do more. I mean, the great people are typically normal people, which did great things. So it's not that you have something very inherently inside. So the biggest problem is talent. Maybe one of the biggest solutions is in us believing in ourselves, right? In you, I mean, us, we are past some stage, but you guys, you girls, you young next generation of this people, right? You believing in yourself and taking the step further. I mean, from wherever you are, take one step further. That will help us a lot, help you a lot, right? And the other aspect of the solution is actually right in front of us. It's just the density of talent matters, the scale, the volume also matters, right? If you look at who are leading in AI in the world, it's US, China, and to some extent India. The one common thing between them is they're very populous countries, right? And in case of US, it's very open to immigrants and very open society, right? So I think in this region, for whatever reason, our countries are tiny, so maybe we should decide to go beyond that, think about how we can be bigger, right, together. And we can work together, and we can help each other and amplify ourselves, right? So I think I would say the biggest, probably the most important challenge, I mean, at least in the startup scene, it's a very power law environment, right? There's one thing that matters a lot, and then the next thing is 1/100th of that first thing. And the one thing that matters a lot is talent, and we just need to be better, right? You just need to be better. You're great, but you need to be better.
Oh, that's nice. So I'm expecting you have a lot of job opportunities for these guys.
Yes, please apply.
So, okay. Okay, so let's look at, now we understand what the industry needs. Let's look at now from the other side, from the academia, okay? And like when you do the academia, usually your career, like either you go for industry or go for research or go for startup entrepreneurship. So the question is, what kind of skills that we need to develop from the academia? We need to see this point from the academic side. So my question maybe for you, Khaled, okay, because Khaled is mainly for the undergrad and Dr. Dena. So the question is, maybe this is a big question, I'm not sure how. What skills and qualifications are required to pursue different career pathways in AI, like I mentioned, industry, academia, and the startups?
All right, you all ready for a mini lecture? Since, he keeps stressing on the academic side. I'm going to do something a little bit out of norm. I want to look at all of you and ask you a question. So if I can get your attention just for a second. How many of you think that your educational experience, either in the past or currently, is not highly relevant to the needs of the market? Okay. Most of you are wrong. So let's have a chat why. Usually. So I'm a little frustrated with you guys because you actually said the right thing. When I've been on similar panels like these before, and they often try to pit academia versus industry, you often get industry saying, we want people who can do 1, 2, 3, and you guys in academia are so outdated and you're still doing 4, 5, 6. And that's probably why a lot of you raised your hands. Okay, I'm getting some nods. And I find the issue, and that's why I really admire what you were sharing, is often a misalignment of expectations and a clarity of communicating what are the goals of what we're doing. So I'll tell you how I see it, how we see it in my mind, some of the top academic places. We tell our students this, and I see some of my students in the audience as well, or ex-students, I may say. We try to tell them, and I hope that you see it more with time, and the more senior people here might resonate. If I were to articulate the skill set needed, either from an industry perspective, because we produce that output, or how we consciously envision it, I really try to produce lifelong learners. We often tell them, I come from a CS background, so this is more the case. AI is nothing new to us, it's CS, right? I mean, we've been saying that for years, like big deal. And we've been going around and trying to talk to people to explain, look, we are prepping you for jobs that do not exist. And this is often really weird to internalize. Nowadays, we take this a little bit more for granted. We're starting to see it. But if you just rewind 10, 20 years, this wasn't the case. Everybody's studying X because they're going to work in X until they die. More so in this part of the world. This is changing. And places that are built with the right educational foundation in mind have that objective clear. So in our minds, when we are building curricula, how do you build a lifelong learner? They're right. Talent isn't inherent. Some of it is genetic based. But actually, if you talk to top athletes, just as an example, because it's something a little more materialistic, you would get to see how much time and effort and repetition they put. So how do we do that in 4, 5, 6 years, whether it's undergrad or grad? Well, how do you reach lifelong learners? How do you make somebody transform into that? In our minds, it's still back to the basics. It's still back to the core skills that you're trying to engrave. Problem solving, critical thinking. And don't take these things lightly. A lot of people repeat them. But if you are true to the idea of just critical thinking, I'm looking at you, especially those who are still students. We're all students if we're lifelong learners. Every slide you see, you should ask, why does this matter? Is this real? Why? How does it fit? Don't just take it passively. That's critical thinking. Challenge it, debate it, reflect on it. How do you build that? How do I build core skills like perseverance, tenacity? They love that. I don't even have to ask them. You've been in different jobs, a bunch of you. Who doesn't want that? Now, how do I build that? Well, guess what? That calculus course that you feel is not relevant anymore because you can go online, yeah, right? Yes, he mentioned calculus. You'd be mistaken if you think that we're teaching you that in order to go and do a double integral in the future. Of course we know machines can do that 100 times better than you. That's not the reason why we're teaching you that, at least not anymore. So what are you getting out of it? Well, if you know anything about the theory of learning, how you build neural connections, how you build, I was just talking to you about tenacity, perseverance. How can you fail multiple times through repetition and trial and error? How you think about solving a problem in so many ways that you know an old computer program, a recent AI-based program, doesn't matter, can do better, but that is not the goal. That is not the goal. And I'm passionate about this, as you can tell, because we are getting more and more heat. And I'm personally worried that we're starting to lose track because the pressure of, and that's why I'm very happy to hear what you're saying, because the pressure of, well, ditch this and ditch that and let's pick up all these new things, those things are going to change in 2, 3 years, as they've changed 5 years ago, as they've changed 10 years ago. What will not change is the building of that talent. And I'm looking at you carefully because I don't want you to give up on that. Whether you're an educator or somebody who receives an education, see through that. It's much more dangerous for people like you now because of the availability of AI. I was using this term recently. Unfortunately, we've democratized access to plagiarism. Let that sink in. So AI can be an incredible tool for you to practice failing and improve your learning. It can also be one hell of a tool for you to skip your learning. It's your call. But back to your original question, I feel strongly, more so now than in the past, that we are still in the business of instilling core skills that make you and enable you to be a lifelong learner. And the courses that you end up taking, if they're built and designed well, this is one of the biggest byproducts. I told you and I shared with you the frustration because we talk with industry reps a lot. Once an industry person comes and tells me, I'll rewind a bit. You know, I'd meet a manager and it's like, oh, does your student know PHP? I'm like, I want to punch him in the face. You know, I basically say, no, we produce a student that if you tell him you need to pick up PHP, you've got 3 days. Just an old example. That's who you want, Mr. Industry. You don't want the one who will give you a linear gain over time. You want the one who, if you invest in, will give you exponential gain. Find those. Well, that's what we try to produce in this business. How do you enable soft skills? That's rising in importance. They mentioned teamwork. Cannot stress that enough. Communication skills. What good is your ability to build something without communicating it to a particular audience? You've covered 50%. You need the other 50%. In our minds, this is what I believe we are in the business of. And if you're an educator, I think have that reaffirmed assertion. If you are receiving an education, I hope what you're getting from this is maybe a refreshed view on looking at what you are being presented to learn. And in those times when you feel like, oh, why am I doing this? Maybe remember some of these things. It's not just that. It's all the byproduct skills that come as a result of that. Every athlete you see, again, just it's a bit more visual. You cannot be a top athlete with everything you have today without doing your push-ups and sit-ups. I'm not producing you to go out there to do push-ups and sit-ups. Your calculus, for those who are nodding, are your push-ups, even if you never actually do that. Sorry if I took a long time.
Well, that's very nice. Okay, so I think everybody needs to take more math courses, more calculus courses. Okay, and don't worry about your GPA, because I love math, for example, and I definitely agree with Khalid about this. If you look at all the machine learning, all the main innovations that's happening all the time, you know, like this conference, Neuro IPS, most of these guys are really mathematicians. And even this DeepSeek model, if you read the paper, if you don't know math, you will not be able to come up with these kind of models. So, and they were very innovative because they know the deep stuff. They are not just a user. So this is a very important point. Okay, now I need to, Dr. Dena, okay. So my question for you, I think since you are leading one of our main divisions, which is dealing with AI, okay, so the question is, how are educational institutions in the region preparing the students for AI careers?
Thank you. First of all, I would like to comment on Dr. Khalid's. I wish I can be as good as I am in math, in push-up, and in the gym. I'm actually the opposite case. So basically, in terms of programs, what we do now, as in the College of Science and Engineering, we try to be very related to the industry. So the core is very important, as Dr. Khalid said. It's extremely important because it what prepares us to the world. But also the relevance to the industry is quite important. So our programs at the College of Science and Engineering, and specifically in ICT, we are built with this in mind. So we have 2 programs that focuses on data science and AI. One is a generic master program of data science, and another is more focused toward health. And the idea of focusing toward health came from the leadership of Qatar Foundation, looking at the investment that Qatar Foundation put in health, whether it's in Sidra Medicine or in the Qatar Biobank, now newly introduced the the Qatar Precision Health Institute. So all these centers needs AI skilled professions. So we looked at it from this perspective. We also have a PhD program that looks into health, and 2 undergrad programs that Dr. Mohammed kindly looked after and established from scratch. So basically, education in HBKU, and I guess in the region, is going toward being relevant to whatever in the global, in fact, and also impact within the community. So, so we have these programs, and then we also, within these programs, we make sure we always consult with the industry. Because they're where we usually feed our student into. So consulting and continuous consultation is important. Student representations in these programs is also important. And the third pillar is collaboration. So we are actually often referred to as a postgraduate school, because most of the programs are in the postgraduate sphere. So many of our research projects are actually collaborations. with the different industries or the different entities in Qatar, or even beyond Qatar, and that's what the leadership actually drive for, as well as the granting agencies, whether in Qatar or international. So that makes the studies of the students, the research we do, quite relevant to the kind of the world around us. Last but not least, and I think everyone touched upon this this aspect, which is the soft skills and the continuous learning, and that's why all of you are here today. All of you have had the will to register and come in and attend. It was not enforced. It is not part of your curriculum, and that's what, from my own individual perspective, that what makes a difference in a human being is the wanting to advance, the wanting to learn more, and that's sort of the DNA of success. And I think our institutions in Qatar or in the region are driving toward this. For example, this workshop today is actually organized by DeepMind and QCRI. So you can see these kind of activities continuing to be sort of an inspiration to our students and the students in the region. So that's my answer. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So actually, I have a question. This came to my mind now, maybe for you, Dr. Dena, because you are working in, I would say, an interdisciplinary research, because you are doing a lot of work on the Autism Center, and at the same time, you are using a lot of AI techniques. So I'm pretty sure that a lot of students here, not necessarily they are coming from AI background, but they are coming from different areas. So how can you envision, like, for someone who wants to go to this kind of interdisciplinary research, so what kind of skills, or is it possible for him to come up with a good research with AI? And what kind of skills he needs to learn to AI? He needs to go deep, does it help? Or he needs to focus on his own research? Because honestly speaking, what I can see, a lot of people now, they are working on, and for example, I'm a person who works in networks, okay, but I use AI. Should I label myself an AI or a network guy? Because now there is a lot of mix with this. So I need to know your opinion on how the students can develop a career like this.
I think also, it's also a personal opinion, it all stems from what you are interested in. All right, I am a computer scientist by training, but I've always been interested in psychology, but I was kind of forced to go into computing because my marks were very high. So it's just like my parents were just, and then I just fell in love in it, but I still had in mind the interest in human behavior, psychology, social sciences. I then, once I went to the UK, I majored in human-computer interaction, which is the intersection between computing and human behavior. Knowing the nitty-gritties of the AI, it's not really necessary if you're applying it, but you really need to know the foundations before you start and thinking of applying it, because AI and at least machine learning models, they are for me, or deep learning models, they are for me as a black box. So I would need to at least have the foundation before going ahead and using them in my research. So yeah, the foundation is extremely important, but we always say in our research group, we are not contributing to the knowledge and science of AI. We are contributing to the knowledge and science of human-computer interaction. AI for us is a tool like the statistical tools that we also use in our lab. So yeah, I think you can shape your research interest in the way that interests you, so you could then progress.
Yes, yes.
So if you don't mind, I can add something a little bit related to this. I happen to be lucky that I was part of the committee that built the AI program for Carnegie Mellon in 2018. I think CMU was proud to be the first university to offer a bachelor's in artificial intelligence, and it was something we were very excited about, way before transformers and all that stuff, and LLMs. And by the way, heads up, the whole AI degree is pretty much the CS degree with a bunch of things that were electives made into a core and some of the core made into electives. But it's much more thought out, like, you know. But I'm just trying to say, again, this has been an ongoing thing. But here's what I want to share related to what are we and what do I need to pick up and how much should I pick up. One thing that happened very quickly is, of course, with the rise of AI more and more as a subdiscipline, was everybody wants to do some form of AI. What are the options of AI knowledge that we have, and how do we wrap our heads around it? This was actually pretty funny because when we started doing this, it was in the School of Computer Science, and then suddenly engineering is doing AI, and business is doing AI, and finance, and then everybody in the university is doing AI, and then you take a step back, and I still was part of that meeting with a bunch of deans, like, okay, so what is AI, and who really is doing it? Does anyone own it? And I can tell you that with a lot of deliberations, there was an analogy I'd like to share that I thought was kind of cool because it helped compartmentalize. And it goes as follows. Think of it as what relates to a car. There are the people that will produce the engine, create, design, build it. There are the people that will fix the engine, the mechanics, who are sufficiently aware of it and can mend it, make it better if there are problems. That's the essence of the car. There's the one who drives the car, and there's the passenger in the car. And in our minds, depending on the depth you want to subject yourself to within the AI realm, and I would argue that this is a similar analogy in other disciplines, but let's stick to the AI over here, that's the role you are playing. And this helped guide us in the formulation of different programs to target those 4 subcategories. So in our minds, if you're somebody who does a major in artificial intelligence, you're really committing yourself and focusing, that is the car builder. We're producing somebody who's supposed to be capable of creating those models, of doing the math behind it, of creating those new algorithms and implementing them. If you want somebody who knows how to mend it, fine-tune, use really well, kind of make changes here and there, mix this and that, that's your mechanic. Maybe that's equivalent to doing a minor in AI or computer science with a focus on that. If you're somebody in a distant discipline, but wants to be more and more aware of what's going on and use it as a very distant tool where you have much less knowledge, that's where we create, and I'm sure lots of places have this now, certificates, programs. If you take these 2-3 courses, you'll be able to do that better. If you come to this workshop for a week, maybe you'll be able to do this a little better. And that is the driver. The passenger are your good old non-technical CEOs. I don't mean you're non-technical. There's nothing wrong with being non-technical. But how do they know enough about what's going on to be able to say, I'd like to take the car, could you please give me a ride towards that direction? And I need to just generally be aware. I think depending on the audience where you fall in this, it's a good way to be conscious about what depth do you want, what are you using it for, because otherwise it's just too broad. And you will always have some form of imposter syndrome if you're not, I hope you know what that means, but you always feel like I'm not good enough or I'm not ready or no, there is a lot more. Of course there's a lot more, but what is your goal and what do you want to use it for? And the more you're conscious about this, and I think as a learner, the better. And I imagine, but I guess industry is a little bit better at that because they know why they need who they need. But that consciousness needs to go both ways. We need people that actually know this. I want the mechanic, or I want the builder, or I want the driver. So, yeah.
Very nice. I fully agree. I like the example. I will borrow it from you, by the way. Okay. Okay. I would like to hear from the industry. Do you have any comment on this?
Just to add that I double down on that. I completely agree. I've seen similar situations in our company where there are certain challenges where, like, no, don't bring the person who has deep knowledge in AI. Get the mechanic out because we need to get this done. We don't want somebody to overthink just to deliver. So you may feel that having a deep knowledge of how the model works, the stats behind it, the maths behind it, is not necessarily better. It's about having a better fit. And generally speaking, just to also corroborate what they were saying is, I'm a huge believer in following your passion, because I recall. One of our interns had asked me, he was an undergrad at Stanford, he came for the summer working with us, and he had asked me, my parents are like pushing me between cybersecurity, CS, and AI, which one do you think is going to be the best for me and I'm going to make a lot of money? And my thought process is, look, whatever your passion is, if you do it well, you're going to make a lot of money, you're going to make a big impact. Whether you choose this, cybersecurity or gardening, if you're the best gardener in the world, you're going to be able to make a huge impact and a lot of money. So.
Finally, I found a controversial point. By the way, you should know, we had agreed to be able to go back and forth. We've all been well behaved because we're agreeing. Finally, I have something. So, while I do agree, this is why I'm interjecting. I always worry about the over-rhetoric about passion. I'll tell you why. A lot of us face hardships, and if you're not facing a hardship, you're doing something wrong. Let's be very clear on that. If everything is coming easy to you, you're not challenging yourself enough. I hope most of you would agree with this. And I think that idea of building passion, my concern is you or people misjudging failure and disappointment in failure and confusing that with lack of passion. And it's important to draw that distinction, otherwise you will quickly not be great at anything because you're going to give up every time and you say, well, I can't find my passion. Passion can be built, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, I'll ask you all to remember some topic at any point in your life that you detested working on, but when you pushed and pushed and pushed, and when you figured it out, how happy you were afterwards. Whether it was a horrendous bug in a program, or a really difficult mathematical proof, or whatever your domain is. So what happened to all your hatred and lack of passion? So I agree, you should be excited. I think once you're successful at those, then really that's the moment you ask, do I like this? With the downs. And that's the part I just want to be clear to. Don't confuse temporary dips and failures, which is an inevitable part of the learning process, with lack of passion. Be more patient before you reach that conclusion.
Yeah, actually, I agree with what you're saying. I think it's just to, sorry, but I do agree. It's just to disambiguate what I mean by passion. You know, when people ask, like, you know, what is a critical success factor in any domain for me? I mean, to be very blunt, it's pain tolerance, basically. And to me, to persist is to be passionate about it. That's how I defined it. To be willing unreasonably to push through the difficult parts, because there's always the boring, the difficult, the challenging, but it's on the other side of that where you're going to see success.
I was just pushing back my chair in case there was punches, things going on.
And actually, I like this example. And actually, when one of my students, like when I usually supervise master PhDs, when they come to me, say, okay, for example, I love doing AI, for example, or whatever example he wants to give. And I'm telling him, for example, what kind of hobbies do you like? He say, for example, I like painting arts. Do you know how to paint? He say, no. Okay, so it's different. For example, what do you like to do, but what are the skills that you have? Okay, this is very important. Actually, you need to understand what are your skills, what are your real major strengths. Maybe you cannot tell me I want to do, for example, I become like good in AI, I don't know how to do programming. It does not make sense for me. Okay, so there is no easy way out. Okay, there is no easy way out. You need to really understand what kind of skills do you need in order to improve or prove yourself with this kind of passion you need. Sometimes people have passion to something, but they have good skills in other stuff. Okay. So you need to understand this very well. And as Dr. Khalid said, it takes time. There is no easy way out. If there is an easy way out, it means you didn't learn anything. Okay, so you need to really develop your skills more. So I think maybe we have to open this. We have one, but I think let's open the section. Okay, so I think, do you have any questions? No, Neil? Okay, so, maybe we can start with, Sanjay, we should give it to the audience, but we'll, so we'll give one to and then we'll start with the students.
No, you can start with.
No, it's okay, I'm just kidding, go ahead. No, just, please.
So, thank you for the talk, for you all. I have a couple of questions. The first one is your passion turning into a hateful job sometimes, because what's the line, Mr. Masood and Professor Khalid, I am asking both of you. So once you are passion, you have passion on some field, after a while, when you saw its ups and downs, it becomes, do I really want to do this job, for example? We all probably experience that kind of thing. Do you think becoming a generalist person would help in this problem? For example, you can be specialized. Professor Khalid, at the beginning of the speech, you said, I don't want an industry person to, I don't suggest the PHP, also I want suggesting that the person who learned PHP in 3 days. So becoming a generalist would be much more convenient for the industry, also in the academia, or being specialized in something is much more important to you guys. Well, also, Dr. Murtaza, this is a question for you too. While you are selecting your candidates, would you prefer a much generalist person or specialized in specific area is much more preferable?
All right, so I'll answer quickly. I wasn't advocating that everybody should be a generalist. I was advocating focusing on the byproduct of the learning activity and not forgetting about that. We are by nature always making constant bets on some vector, some sense of direction, right? There is some area, some specialization. The nature of education is the more time you spend, the more specialized you are. Right? High school is very general, undergrad is more specific into an area, a master's, a PhD, you're getting a lot more specific, and then you're picking one problem in a PhD, for example. So, and you know, that's okay. I was just advocating the focus on the other really important things because your job will vary, more so in this day and age. And so don't lose track of that byproduct of skill set that you're building, and diversify your experiences accordingly and appreciate what those other disciplines expose you to. So that is really my 2 cents there. What you seek, I imagine at any point in time, is a function of what you think you want to do next. And all I would say is be comfortable with changing your mind on what you think you want to do. It's okay. And don't think, and this ties to what I'm saying, if you focus on all these byproducts, don't think that you will have wasted those years because you're pivoting and doing something else. There's a lot of things that will transition that you have picked up, especially if you're more conscious about it. Yeah. Does that make sense?
You come there because of your choices, that what makes you. So your choices also be part of your personality. So we shouldn't be regretting that choices.
Never, never. And I always try to tell people there's always stuff you've learned from those choices. Be more conscious about what it brings. You know, I've had friends, I did computer science as an undergrad. I can tell you maybe, and probably others, like 60% of them ended up now working on things that have nothing to do with computer science. And if you went to every single one of them, they will tell you about how the skills they picked helped them. Okay, so, and that's one example. I know the case, same for engineers, same for others. That's wonderful to see, and more so in this day and age.
Yes, on the point about do we look for generalists, it depends on the stage of your career. Like if someone's in the job market for 10 years, we definitely expect them to have learned something very special. But if it's someone with 2 years of experience, that's not the case. One thing about generalists I would cautious all of us is that with AI, maybe general tasks would be mostly automated. So it's important for us to be able to operate at a different, higher level of abstraction than a generic. I mean, if you have bachelor degrees in 10 different topics, most likely in 5 years, all 10 would be not very marketable.
So let me add one thing to this. I think the good example from the undergrad, for example, I usually we are designing one AI course now, program. Sorry. So I put myself I go to the industry and ask them for what kinds of experience they need. Most of them, they come back and they say we need more probability and statistics, which of course everybody hates. And the reason for that, because a lot of they deal with data analysis, and they found that if the student really is good in probability and statistics, then we'll be able to understand well how they deal. Because actually, as most of the models now, they are already developed. The issue is about how to play with the data. The data you don't know. So this kind of basic foundations that you need. Like we are building a big building. The foundations are very important. If you build these foundations well, I always tell my students that the math is the muscle of the brain. Okay, even if he doesn't feel it, it helps. It really makes a difference. You can see that the student from both sides. Okay, so questions. Okay, okay. So can you handle? Okay, so she has the mic.
Thank you very much, sir. For,
thank you so much.
He started there.
okay.
I'm not sure.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much for the presentations. My question is about how you mentioned that when we grind, that it pays off. Like there's huge payout. But I wanted to ask about also the other side, the other hand of it, where how do we use tools intelligently that it doesn't trump these payouts that you mentioned. For instance, the calculator. Today, I'm sure that if I use my brain to make computations, it's going to help me cognitively. But maybe my own guess would be that using a calculator to solving problems, very complex problems, without a calculator now, may just make me a bit slower. So I would like to hear what your thoughts are on like trying to balance the use of tools and still being able to maximize payoff with really grinding. I don't know if I was clear enough to.
So when the calculators came out, then the human mind were able to have more and more advanced inventions, because then you have the capacity. I believe in the human mind that it will expand no matter. So now with those AI tools that are helping us, and me myself, I use a lot of AI tools to help me in my daily task, but then I use the time I have to more creative work. And I think as the human evolve, this will remain the trend. We will not get the intellectual abilities will not get, it will get actually higher, not lower. That's my perspective, and that's how we are made of. Yeah.
And if you want to add me something, like for example, now most of you mentioned the example of a calculator. Calculator is doing very standard operations. Now with the AI models, with data, everything is random. And even the results of the AI models, you don't know why they are doing this. We have a lot of uncertainty here. So you need to understand how these models really, how they are working. For example, with generative AI, how the LLM is coming with these results. Why there is a hallucination. You should ask yourself, why is doing this? There is a big, actually, this is actually, if you look at the foundation of this has been math for a long time. And this is like, it's not something new. But the foundation is all based on mathematical concepts, which we all know because it's random behavior, data analysis. But now with all the high computation which we have now, we will be able to really give data, train the neural network. By neural networks, I took a course in neural networks in maybe 1996 or something like this. And at this time, everybody, so the concepts are there. So you need to, if you don't have how to play with the data, why the model is giving me this, how hallucination work, you'll not be able to be innovative. So this is important, especially with this AI. Okay. Yes, question.
Yeah, thank you so much for the amazing panel. This question might jump between all of you at the same time. So maybe my question first to Dr. Mada. You've exited a startup before. You went to industry, and then now you're doing a startup again. You studied your PhD at Stanford. Do you want to do some reflection to us about what sort of culture you've seen that allowed you to, I mean, obviously a lot of startups are spinning up at Stanford, MIT, and these things, how that culture goes from university to a startup, and like, what sort of things we can take into learning, and maybe this goes back to Dr. Dena as well, like what sort of things are we doing here, and can we do more of to like encourage that startup behavior? And then I will slide it to Mr. Masoud on when you are like evaluating these startups and they are still in the university, whether they are graduate university or undergraduate university, and they want to start a startup and they haven't had the experience yet, right? How do you evaluate a pitch like that? And like obviously with today's amazing tools, you can do a full startup with 1 or 2 people here, right? And they will be your ChatGPT or Gemini preferably, will be your legal assistant, your sales assistant, and so on. So how do you work with this new shifting mindset? So maybe we can like recap the question, culture maybe, and then into graduates and then evaluating it. Thank you so much.
I think the components of the culture of Silicon Valley it's good to reflect, and I think I mentioned it, but the 2 biggest things that I can strongly feel. One is this culture of that we can do, right? I mean, if you talk to a 19-year-old on University Avenue, and he has an idea or she has an idea. They, for some reason, they think they're the best person in the planet to do it, right? Most likely it's wrong, most likely they're not, but they have this mindset, right? That if it's doable, then I can do it. And if it's not doable, then I still try. I think that mindset of, I mean, this mindset of American exceptionalism is very, very enshrined in Silicon Valley. And the other aspect of it is this risk-taking, right? This excitement, right? It's, to be honest, I don't think it's very healthy for general population to have that level of risk-taking and excitement and even passion for doing things. It's obviously at the level of crazy, right? But that is what is really running that engine. Just this passion, I mean, it's almost impossible to be at Stanford and not think about the startup, because you see the Yahoo founders walking this way and Tim Cook walking that way, and then Sergey Brin will come this way, right? It's just in front of you, and this is something we need here as well, right? These examples of success, right? The proof that things can be done is very, very strong. And I think that's the second most important thing there.
Can I just add something in there? Just to add to that example that you gave of founders coming in, although the profile is different, this is exactly the reason that we invested in Keen, actually, is because we're trying to create those examples here.
So from a university perspective, I think creating this culture of innovation and also the enablers through funding, through training. But one thing that I see as a kind of a negative thing, at least I'll just be very honest and very open, I feel what we want to do here in Qatar at least is to replicate the model that worked in the West. But it might not work here. We really need to understand. We really need to understand the ecosystem in the Gulf at least, and have grassroots in the Gulf, not bringing a framework or a model from the West. And in the Gulf countries, we're always very successful in trade, for example. Way before the oil industry, like my ancestors, they were all traders of pearls, of certain aspects, going to India and back and forth. So why don't we invest in our history and create a system that fits us? Because obviously, bringing a system from the West is obviously not working. We cannot see as much as we want startups in Qatar or in the region. So it's just a personal opinion. So I think we need to build a framework that suits us, that's contextualized to us. And I think the universities now, like HBK, we have the HBK Innovation Center, QCRI is driving startups, HBKU in general, and there are funding schemes. QRDI now have a whole program that funds innovation and startups. But again, I think we really need to look at what should work in this area of the world and what's not working, how can we address it?
I have a question on this topic exactly. Do you want to go first? Okay. No, I'm really curious about this topic and love to understand a bit more the AI landscape in the region. So we're here in Qatar, and QCRI, HBQ are doing a great job at having AI curriculums, but also funding startups, etc. What about the rest of the MENA region, the Gulf countries? What is, like, does somebody have like a bit of an overview of the landscape across university, startups, venture capitals? Like, what's happening?
Yeah, I can speak to some of it. I do work with universities a little bit, and hopefully soon we'll work even more closely. But I can speak to the startup scene. As I said, it's very nascent, the ecosystem, and I can speak very, very specifically about GCC. I'm familiar with a little bit of what's going on in North Africa, but not too much. I would say it only picked up around 2016, 2017, so it's still very early. As I said, the founders are themselves young. The startups are mostly very early stage. Initially, what we were seeing, I would say, up until 2018, 2019, around the Souq.com, acquisition, Amazon acquisition, then we had the Careem and the Uber acquisition. There was a lot of fast followers. There was a lot of, it's a polite way of saying copycat businesses. Businesses we saw worked out in the West, we'll just take the business model, bring it here. There's no business model risk, it's just pure execution risk. I feel like we're kind of past that stage, and now we're starting to see the next generation of more interesting, deeper tech companies, again, shout out to Keen, who are doing like really interesting things that are pushing the limits innovatively. So I would say it's very interesting to see a lot more of that happening in the scene. In the industry, like to call it corporates, let's go to corporates a little bit. They're a bit slow. They're my lovely clients. A lot of them have huge AI teams, big budgets, but then they call us to do the work. And it's just because they're a bit slower to react, but understand the need. But what I'm seeing is that there is more seriousness in this space, more real demand for solutions, because they're starting to understand that it's not a matter of now just kind of being competitive, it's a matter of existence. And so we're starting to see like proper investments now in the world of data centers. They're really thinking about things like data engineering. And yeah, that's what I would say, yeah.
Even though I'm not directly in that landscape, I've consulted or worked a lot in different contexts related to this. I think in terms of universities, you're seeing more hubs trying to come up in the region. It's still a bit early. I always feel proud that I believe that Qatar was one of the first in the region that tried to come up with this whole experiment of like education city, and let's bring different institutions and let's invest also in a new national institution that drives research forward and the research centers. So all these efforts are great. You also see some of these, and now Abu Dhabi is trying with MBZ, and Saudi tried with KAUST and is putting more resources in others. I am yet to see, so that's on the education part. I might be wrong, but the limited view I have is I'm not seeing any entity that has the full equation set up. Like, there is always something missing. Either you're finding a place where they're investing a little bit more in talent, but then the regulations aren't there. Or you'll have VCs being around and people have some money to put in, but nobody's investing in the talent. Or you'll have those two, and then you'll have governmental regulations that are so worried about attracting talent. I haven't seen a place. If you go to Egypt and Jordan, you'll have much more mature, for example, ecosystems, because they're relatively large markets. They have probably an influx of talent just because of the numbers, as opposed to necessarily a very solid educational system, but numbers kind of rule over there. But then you'll have other issues. You'll come maybe to the GCC, there's much more attention in putting money, but much less, in my mind, in having the better, attractive government regulations that would make people want to make this home and actually stay long term. There isn't a place in the region that is, in my mind, complete, and it saddens me to see each one trying on their own, because it feels like if we sit and talk together, then you're another US in a way, when you actually complement all these efforts. And that's, I think, something a lot of us aspire to, but it's just difficult to reach.
I have a question. Hey, I'm here. So I have a question. So I guess it's related to what Dr. Dena said and what also Dr. Khaled just said now. I'm speaking specifically about the migration of talent, right? So we see like there is a scarcity of like talents in the Middle East, and what you said now, Dr. Khaled, is that the Middle East is not working together, the MENA region is not working together, and we don't want to be like, for example, another US, as Dr. Dena said before, like we want to find our own culture, and basically when we attract people to stay or retain our talent, we want them to stay in something related to them, right? So, so my question is that there is a lot of migration of talent, like even if you spend like, or you train talent and so on, eventually, like big amount of them will for example, prefer to work in Europe or in the US or like other areas. I know this is not good and this is not what I would like to do, but this is something I've done. So I'm from Egypt, I studied in Germany, France, and then I moved to the UK for work. So what are we doing actually to retain talents, to retain the Middle Eastern? Of course, to attract foreign talents as well. Like it's not about like only keeping not only about the MENA region, but generally. But like, what are we doing to, or maybe not, what we should do to attract more talent to come back? For example, some people I see now coming back to some areas in the MENA region, but I think we need more. So what do you think about it? And this is, I think, like this question for everyone in the panel, basically. So yeah.
And I don't have any problem with the region, especially recording again. Okay.
I'm not sure where to start. We need to fix the problems that we said, and I don't know if it's really in our hands. Half of it is policy, half of it is regulations, you know, regional politics. And I think every now and then, different parts of this part of the world are trying to take steps. I would think the slope is generally positive. I don't like how positive. I think the rate can be better. The US maybe is on the path of helping reverse the migration, given the current politics. I don't know. So you got to throw that out a little bit. It's going to take a long time. I don't know if I fully agree with Dr. Dena's view, although maybe I think I know where she's coming from. But I actually believe more that we should take what seems to have worked elsewhere and then customize and adapt and evolve. I worry about the whole, and this is something that frustrates me because, and maybe that relates, that some people try too often to start from scratch. And you're like, but we know this works over there. If you want to invent a new car, do not question the wheels yet. Like, you have no car. Let's start from that point. Even when we're doing research, you don't start from zero. You start on the shoulders of others, and then you customize and you tailor. I do agree that we have our own context and problems. But if you have a system that's working, first adopt, it's been working and tested for so long in any context. And then, okay, how do we now take this and make it better? And how do we make it more relevant to us? When you look at the different startups that are happening in the region, very few of which I'm aware of, the magnificent ones are the ones that solve problems in the region, that are unique to the region. But the ecosystem around how to get to a unicorn or a successful outcome, a lot of it follows the basics there because they just have experience in what it takes to go there. And perhaps if you have that environment and the right equation, then you would be able to attract the talent back to your question. It might be worth looking, I used to have these debates with some faculty, look at how IITs started and how they evolved in India. Okay, it's an excellent story as an example of what it takes, because in my understanding, India's one of the greatest exports is the brain talent, right? And when you see how IITs evolved and how it started as, you know, beacons of light amidst the whole setup and how they managed to attract a lot of folks, not the majority, but you don't need everyone to come back. You need beacons of hope, and you need them to be done well. They have to be done well. And then you'll start getting people little by little.
So I just want to shed the light on some of Qatar Foundation initiatives. So there is an initiative that was recently relaunched. It was there for years. It's called the Arab Global Scholar Initiative. It's an initiative by Her Highness Sheikh Hamad Bin Nasser, who is the chairperson of Qatar Foundation. So the idea of this initiative is to attract Arab scientists living in the West and attract these scientists to establish research connections in the area. As I said, this initiative has been reactivated. It was there since more than 10 years, and it was the reason where they established the research centers, including QCRI, Kiri, and QBRI, and some of the HBKU distinguished faculties, I would say. So there are initiatives by the leaderships to attract Arab scientists. In this panel today, we have two very nice scientists. So there is initiative and there is the appetite. But I do agree, the governance, the policies, the procedures needs to reflect the appetite as well. And I know we are recorded, but it's just something that I should say, because I see the appetite and the leadership, and something that really make me happy to see scientists from top scientists from all around the world coming to Doha, whether they choose Doha as their home or come and collaborate with scientists, with national scientists like myself. So I think the appetite is there and from both sides, and I really hope this will continue. So that's my answer to your question.
No, we cannot.
I can add one more thing, and it's, to be honest, it's not the case that everything should be ready for everyone, right? It's also about us, right? If you care, make a difference. That's easy.
So, so just one practical thing about AI as a career in the region is that there are not enough big companies who have technology offices in the region. So they mostly have marketing or sales or, so do you think, tariffs is in the news a lot these days. So the Middle East region should set a big, like a firewall, like what China did, like a barrier saying, okay, 50% tariff if you want to buy overseas software, and encourage the development of software in the region. So, sorry.
Okay, try to avoid getting overly political here. I like the end goal. I don't agree with the means. Yes, constraint is the mother of invention. That's true. That's the painful way. But I think there's another way, which is the opposite, is to actually create incentive structures to have these top-tier companies set up here, sort of, with tax breaks to go the other way,
so why is that
and drive demand.
Because, for example, CMU Qatar, produces, the world's best computer scientists, right? And it's very hard for them to be absorbed here, right? So
exactly, and so I think that the way to achieve that is to actually incentivize top-tier organizations to actually have more than a marketing office, give them tax breaks, and also give them a small quota that you have to hire locally. And just initially, I would say little, not too much, because eventually it will become organic, right? I think to the story of IIT in India, I think that's what they did in Bangalore, right? They brought in HP, and they said, okay, here's this, they gave him a sweetheart deal, created a ton of demand for talent. They said, where are we going to get the talent from? No problem, I'll get you IIT, you have the supply, flywheel goes, you get the talent, goes through this kind of the chain and learns from HP how it's done, and says, you know what, I can do better than that. And then Wipro was born, and then Tata Consulting is born, and the rest is history.
But so just to follow up, you look at China, right? They have a firewall, right? So, and of course, in AI, they are far ahead of India, or now, of course, people are saying with DeepSeek, they have, they have amazing amount of talent. So, I think in the end, economics, if you look at the history of the world, trade, tariffs, seem to work. So that's my point.
It's a recipe that may work, but I guess I'm a hippie at heart, so I'm always the other direction.
Just another point of view. So
a quick answer to your question. We are always, generally, the people are looking for short-term gains. A solution like what you are saying, it takes a lot of time. And usually the region here, they're looking for a very short-term gain. I want to put money here, I need results in 1 year, that's the issue. But I fully agree with you, we have a talent and we should build on top of it, but we need to wait. We need to be patient on that. I'm not sure if we have time, it's over, yes? Okay. So this will be my last question from, okay.
Okay. Thank you so much for the discussion. I have actually a question for all of you. So I guess in the academia and also in the industry, we agreed on the most important aspect when recruiting is basically the talent, right? And industry wants talent, academia should provide talent, right? And when you actually explained the talent from the academia perspective, which I personally liked, is that you want to build people or profiles that actually can adapt to change, can learn how to do obstacles, overcome obstacles, right? And I think there is a psychological component that should be taken into consideration in this, in the curriculum actually. So for example, in the CS community, it's really well known that most of the people who work in CS, they have imposter syndrome, right? And they actually recognize it when they go to work, not when they are studying, for example. And the people that actually suffer the most from this are the excellent students, because if you're an excellent student, you probably wouldn't fail that much. And if you're not failing, you will probably won't learn how to cope to fail in university. You would have to do it in industry. So, sorry, I'm talking too fast. My question is, when you guys build a curriculum or design a curriculum, do you take into consideration adding a psychological component, explicit psychological component to it, or maybe you implicitly add it to the courses? For example, you designed a course to have like multiple designed failure steps for the student to be able to cope them to failure and then work this out. Yeah, that's my question.
I have one of my students there, I can see, who's now an AI engineer at scale, and we make sure all of them fail. Okay, so, and thank you, Sanjay, for saying that we produce some of the best CS people. You're absolutely right in principle, and while I was trying to crack a joke, the truth is we make things challenging enough. I think if you're not, what I mentioned earlier, look, you can't put the onus 100% on the university either. Like when I give other education talks, I always tell students, education is a partnership. I can't force you to learn, which is why I'm talking to you about how I'm encouraging you to actually take more. It's a partnership. And in a typical US, I think most institutions, I remind them that you are in charge of your education. My job is to make sure you have enough opportunities to be challenged and support for when you're challenged. So we will hire, student affairs is one of the most important things outside of the curriculum. People that can speak to mental health, to time organization, these things are very important in any decent academic setup. But you're the other half of the equation. If you make choices to take the path of least resistance, I can't force you. Right? And not everyone is the same. But my job is to create opportunities that will guarantee, if you want, to challenge you to failure and then to pick you up again and be there to support you to succeed and do that repeatedly. I don't know if I'm answering your question directly, but I can tell you for sure there is nobody who goes through the system without feeling sufficiently challenged and who goes into multiple rounds of even micro failures before they can actually step up.
Internships as often and as quickly as you can. You'll figure out where your gaps are. And then actually I feel feeds back into your learning journey. Oh, sorry, I have the mic now. I thought I was projecting, but I think the message is clear, right? Internships often as early as possible, and that feeds back into your learning experience. And guess what? When you get into industry, you stand out from the crowd.
Can we also ask industry to challenge the interns freely?
Hey,
we send our students at times, they come back and they're like, oh,
we're filing papers. Yeah. No. We put you to work. Like, we literally don't even use the intern. So.
Thank you very much, our panelists. I think we should again, thank you for QCRI Google DeepMind for inviting us. Actually, myself, I really enjoyed it a lot. And I wish you all the best with the rest of the school, and please enjoy Doha. Doha is nice. Don't let them let you work all the time. Okay? Thank you very much. Thank you.